How could such a perfect fairy tale end in such a horrible tragedy?
She wasn't just a daughter. She was my best friend.
You know, it's just I don't have that person anymore.
When then 30-year-old Krystal Mitchell turned up murdered in San Diego, California, it was a stunning twist. Her own mother, a former detective, forced to use her law enforcement background to hunt down her daughter's killer.
I decided to take matters into my own hands.
It would take 6 years, but Josephine would uncover vital new clues, helping homicide investigators zero in on the man wanted for Krystal's murder, no matter how far he fled.
So you welcome her help?
Absolutely.
The divorced mom was raising 2 young children on her own, living her life on her terms. And to know her was to love her.
She always just had a way with people and cheering them up and encouraging them with her personality.
Smart and successful, too, working as a property manager in Phoenix, Arizona, while preparing to become a licensed broker.
She was a go-getter, but she had her own mind and her own idea of what things should be like.
That also applied to all those male admirers who pursued the brainy beauty her entire life.
She's used to people gawking at her and looking at her because she was a beautiful woman.
Then one guy gawking at Krystal at a property she managed caught her attention.
She was so like, hey, you know, this guy came to the apartment complex and, you know, he seems pretty nice.
A 32-year-old insurance salesman named Raymond McLoud, commonly known as RJ, was just Krystal's type, a buff, rugged-looking bodybuilder and former Marine recruiter.
She told me that she was physically attracted to this guy.
Like Krystal, RJ said he was divorced with a child about the same age as her kids.
She thought that, you know, he may be looking for something more stable.
Krystal's best friend, Diana Oliveira, says that RJ also had a spotless record, something Krystal insisted on.
She told me, hey, you know, I'm good. He passed 2 background checks, so this guy is clean, and, you know, he has a good job.
And the two began dating.
It was a new romance.
Right.
Krystal fell hard.
There was nothing he could do wrong.
But there was something wrong with another man formerly in Krystal's life. Just days before her death, Josephine says Krystal told her that a man she had previously dated appeared to be turning into a major threat, showing signs of possessiveness, including showing up outside her door unannounced and peering through her windows.
And she says, Mom, you know, there's a big snake that's chasing me around.
Krystal was apparently so alarmed about the threat from the ex that she hoped her new boyfriend RJ would come to her rescue. Just days before Krystal Mitchell turned up murdered, she had mysteriously confided something very troubling to her new boyfriend RJ and her mom.
Well, she was telling me she had an ex that was bothering her.
Krystal was afraid of the former boyfriend she had left behind just months before, telling her mom that new boyfriend RJ also feared for her safety.
And she says, you know, he loaned her a gun to protect herself.
She felt safe.
Yes, she felt safe.
Then to further ease her worries, RJ came up with a surprise that would get her out of Phoenix for a few days. A romantic getaway to San Diego, Krystal's favorite vacation spot. But friends and family couldn't have imagined they'd never see Krystal again.
The last thing that she said to me was, hey, we're about an hour away from San Diego. Can I call you back? And I said, yes. I never heard back from her.
Krystal's friend Diana, as well as Krystal's family, became deeply concerned when she hadn't responded to their phone calls and text messages for nearly 2 days.
I just started feeling sick to my stomach. I felt like I wanted to faint.
Then stepdad Michael got a call from Homicide Detective Sergeant Matt Dobbs of the San Diego Police Department.
And I heard my husband saying, yes, this is her dad. I knew, and I just started screaming.
Their beautiful daughter, Krystal, had been found in a San Diego apartment, strangled to death.
And that was not what you were expecting. What a terrible message.
Even more terrible, Sergeant Dobbs says they believed they knew who killed her, but he was nowhere to be found.
So did he become suspect number one?
Yes, he was immediately a person of interest in the case, and then very quickly as the investigation unfolded, he became the prime suspect.
And he was Krystal's buff new boyfriend, Raymond McLoud, who despite his large size, had completely disappeared.
It appears that he took Miss Mitchell's car, which was later recovered at the San Diego International Airport, and we later learned that Mr. McLoud rented a car from the airport and drove into Mexico.
Josephine believes the buff bodybuilder may have been taking steroids that sometimes can trigger violent behavior, and that he had beat her to death. Murder charges were filed against RJ, and the U.S. Marshal's Office issued a wanted bulletin, but days turned into months with no leads on his whereabouts. Josephine's patience ran out.
I decided to take matters into my own hands.
Josephine was once a cop on the island of Guam, where her military family was stationed. She says that she would wake at 3:30 in the morning to start her own searches. And she made some shocking discoveries about RJ. Among them, RJ had a rap sheet for 2 domestic violence cases. Though Krystal had looked into RJ's background, her mom says they were only credit checks, not criminal background checks.
She didn't know anything about him.
RJ was arrested for domestic violence only 3 months before Krystal's murder, charged with assaulting his second wife in Riverside, California. He pleaded not guilty and was released on $50,000 bail. In the meantime, Josephine issued her own wanted poster of RJ on Facebook.
And then it just went viral.
U.S. Marshals also took on the manhunt. They believed that McLoud fled through Mexico to Central America after Mitchell's death. His last reported locations were in Belize and then Guatemala, and Josephine's poster paid off with many tips.
One guy said, "Oh, I met him at the bar and we had a drink." A gal called me up. She says, "I'm a bar owner here at the beach. And this man was at my bar."
And thankfully, Josephine just never gave up tracking those stories, because 6 years after her daughter's murder, her tips helped nab the violent bodybuilder. U.S. Marshals finally tracked him down in El Salvador after receiving a tip that McLoud was teaching English at a school there. McLoud was extradited back to San Diego.
Joining me now is Krystal's mother, Josephine. Josephine, it is so good to see you again. So much has happened. You're a little bit closer to justice. That day that RJ McLoud was arrested, and I saw you on television saying, "I got him."
Yes, I got him. And he's not gonna get away again.
I was cheering for you.
Oh.
What was that like when you got that call?
It was a mixed emotion because, you know, you work so hard and you're chasing somebody so hard, you expect it to go out in a big bang. Like, you know, he's running through the jungle and somebody shoots him in the back or something. I mean, you kind of expect something big like that, right? Because the chase has been so long and so hard. But they just simply walked in there and arrested him. I couldn't believe it was over. But the great thing was when he was caught, I got this phone call from the marshal. The embassy guy was on there, and even I could hear the El Salvador police, and they were screaming on the phone, "You did it, Mama, you did it. It's you, it's all you, your work, and you did it."
Okay, so let's talk about the kids. How are they doing? You are raising Krystal's 2 children. How are they doing?
I think it's affecting them now. I mean, when they were little, they were 5 and 6, they couldn't really understand that their mom is dead and gone. They're realizing the loss of their mom. And, you know, we do our best. This was why it was so important for me to catch him. It was for them. And I wanted them to know that no one was going to get away with murdering their mother. Not if Nana can help it.
What would justice look like for you?
That he goes to jail forever.
Now I want to talk about something more hopeful. Your angels of justice.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So in 2017, while I was trying to figure out the system, I realized that people needed help. So I came up with the name Angels of Justice, and I put it out there to families, and I teach families how to keep their cases alive. I'm an advocate, a liaison between the police and families, and recently I was involved in a case in Honduras. I was asked, there were 3 women murdered by an American citizen who fled. and they had contacted me and asked me for help. So I was able to help them navigate through this and what to do, what not to do.
You are such a good woman, Josephine.
I'm a grieving mom.
I'm sorry about it. Thank you.
Thank you for having me here.